an investment in Canada in which I could do a vacation rental. The bylaws were that I bought an R3 house and I could rent up to 2 rooms, which I did. It took me 4 years and $500,000 to bring my house from the tragedy that it was to the beautiful Victorian that it is now. And I worked carefully with Bernie and John to figure out how I could live in the downstairs, restore the upstairs, move to the upstairs, restore the downstairs, rent out 2 rooms to help cover the costs. Took me some years to get my license. Finally, I got my permit. And during the whole time, I have always paid my taxes in full and not given a grant as residency. And Bernie and John both knew very much that I was an American, hoping to use my vacation rental business as a reason to immigrate to Canada. They knew that they required me to have a manager. I didn't even take care of my own bookings. I had a manager to do it because they were Canadian and I don't want a chance working in Canada. They required me to have a manager that lived within 15 minutes away, right? And I always have had one. I've applied 4 or 5 different people in Nelson to take care of my 2-person rental. Now, then I went into business, right? There's a second story I'd like to tell after this, but first I'd like to tell this story. So I went into business, and when the bylaws got changed, there was this fierce amount of competition that was unfair for several years. I didn't make nearly the money I had hoped to make, and my prices had to be low. I asked Alex, and I also asked Pam, and I also asked Megan to investigate with Airbnb and find out exactly who rented how much money was made, and who was the illegal people, because I played by the rules and lost lots of money, but that's not the point of this story. So now we are here. They took my business license away based on some accusation of advertising, and I have rented my house out in a variety of ways. They had already taken my money for my new business license. The city. I came, paid for my business license, went away. I was going away for a 7-month journey, and I heard rumor that you had to have applied for your grandfather by this date, and I went down to apply for it, and they said, no, you're not allowed the package, right? Because we don't like your advertising. And there was just no way they could comprehend that my kitchen is on the 2nd story and my downstairs is a mess. It's an under construction zone. I invited Megan to come to my house to see. She refused. Then I get a notice from you saying, we are accusing you of a secondary suite. Brian came and saw that it's just a kitchen that's on the top story. Megan couldn't comprehend it. All those things happened. You shut my business down, my rental business down, for 8 months. I lost all the traction because you took away my license and I couldn't short-term rental, and now I've been able to reopen it up. All of that's a problem, but my big problem is, under the current laws, while I have been grandfathered permission with Pam to have no parking, because I wouldn't be able to get parking in, I have not been grandfathered the ability to be a non-resident. I understand the new laws are so that foreigners don't come in here, buy up properties, and rent out single rooms, but that's too late. It was 11 years ago when I came to do that, and you guys have been collecting my taxes accordingly and my business license accordingly. There's no way the city can claim that they didn't know that I was an American who bought an investment house to run as a vacation rental. So I believe that I should be grandfathered back. I should be able to, because currently, right now, I had to rent my house out to another person. Now when I come to Nelson, I can't stay in my own home, because the law says the whole thing has to be rented out by another person who takes care of the business. So now the only thing I have in the whole world is the $500,000 that I spent on this house. I'm a 53-year-old American woman, and you know we don't have Social Security, and you guys are playing this game with me. So I probably lost, if I calculate all the money that I've lost from the competition of the rentals, the fact that my occupancy was 30% and not 70% was it should be because of all these over the last 4 years, and all that I went through with the city, and then to have my license taken away, I'm scared. I'm terrified. I don't want to spend $500 to beg the city council to change my variance. I want to be grandfathered into the laws that I do, because I am pretty sure that shutting down my business without any notification is against the city bylaws. I'm not a lawyer, but I did read the bylaws. If you had a problem with what I was advertising or how I was doing it, you needed to send me a letter and tell me so, not renew my business license year after year after year. Nothing changed. It was a mistake that Megan made to shut me down. She's gone. She backlogged, and the letters that I have from her never address the issues. All I want is to be able to own my house, rent out 2 rooms. This is a vacation rental. Have someone else on the property manage it so that if I decide to rent out my portion of the house, some of the rooms to roommates or live there or not, I can. But I want to be able to use my house. Because right now it's rented to Keegan. Keegan's renting out the short-term rental.
Mm-hmm.
Keegan's nice enough. If I ask him, can I rent a room in my house from him? That's a ridiculous scenario. I should not be able to use my own home because I need to keep my vacation rental business going, my 2 rooms rented so that I can pay for my house, and you guys require me to rent it to some student who then owns the whole house, and then I can't even use my stuff. It's a crazy scenario. So here's what I want. I'm pretty sure I grandfather in. I want to be able to have my home that I can have a business license that's secure. I want to be able to have a manager that's off-site and not live on-site. Because I can't live on site. I'm not a legal Canadian. I can't be there all the time. It wouldn't be fair, and we'd be breaking the federal law. And I want to be able to sell my business as a going concern. Megan told me, and Pam said, no, you can't sell your business as a going concern. Alex has written me and said, yes, I can. So this is my 16th meeting regarding this. Megan has said, or Pam has said, has grandfathered me now into the parking spaces, but not the ability to not live on the premise. Alex has grandfathered me with a letter the ability to sell my going concern, which are both 2 things I wanted grandfathered. The third thing I want grandfathered is the ability to hire a manager and have somebody manage my building and run my things and not be required to abandon my home to do so.
Okay. Yeah, so so in terms of where council was with, I guess, short-term rentals, so initially, council had regulations in place that said unless you're a bed and breakfast, and there was rules around those, which I believe included it still had to be your principal residence. You couldn't.
That's not what they give me.
That was the, I believe, the regulations. Whether
the BC regulations were 15 minutes, and the BC regulations were on the Nelson City website for many years.
So we can share those bylaws with you, right?
Right.
Now, any of our bylaws, or most of our bylaws, tend to be complaint-based. If for example, we had a B&B and there was problems with it, and someone complained and said, the person that's supposed to be living there isn't even living there. They're out of the country all the time, and they're rented to these people, and people have these loud parties, and they're a real problem. Then bylaw would go in and investigate and find out and say, geez, you're actually not following our rules. Then we would take some type of action, and generally it's informing, saying, you're not following the bylaws. You're supposed to be there. But we understand you're not, and give you a chance to to explain whether what we understand is true or not true. So that's generally how our bylaws work. And during that period, we also had no one could rent a residential property for under 30 days at a time. And over time, yes, we saw, just like any other municipality in North America, or probably Europe. I just saw Japan shut down all their Airbnbs for some reason. Anyway, everyone started to see this pressure, and I think Nelson always had it, that people were.
I did start my business before Airbnb.
Yeah, but even before that, I think we were seeing people.
I know my next door neighbors bought a going concern vacation rental called the Lotus House. It was sold and advertised as a vacation rental.
Right.
That
so
was
we
illegal.
started seeing that,
Right.
and that was a fairly long period that that we were starting getting.
Of course, and I complained every time I got my license again. I came in and I made a complaint.
So we were seeing that whether it's people that were running legitimate B&Bs or residents saying there's someone my next door neighbor is renting their house as a short-term rental, and your bylaws say that's not allowed. So that was the pressure that council started facing and then then of course the Airbnb piece started. So now it was starting to get larger and larger, and I think when we council decided to tackle this, like many municipalities across North America, I think our first information was we worked. There was a software company that actually goes out and their software goes and scans the internet to see who's listing their places and that
So
kind of